That's another one. Welcome indeed. I am live streaming. Thank you all for tuning in. I'm not sure if the feed is actually showing, if you can actually hear me or if you can see me. If you can see me, hopefully, I'm trying to monitor myself on the. I'm trying to monitor myself here, but I don't think that my camera was working for the intro. But these things do happen. I think you probably did hear the sound, but just to let you know, it was me actually playing the guitar. I was playing it, but first time, second time, we'll only get better as we do this. Now, today's episode is about Mark Angel comedy and the case of. Sorry, I think just 1 second there. I think my sound is. I think I'm recording. Am I recording myself here? All right. So we're going to talk about intellectual property and the case of Denilson Igwe versus Mark Angel. Mark Angel comedy. Now, Mark Angel comedy is one of the biggest YouTube channels in Africa. The first upload was in 2013, and it grew to become a multi-million-dollar YouTube channel. So they've earned millions. Well, Mark Angel comedy has earned millions. Now, Denilson Igwe was there right at the beginning, and he made a lot of claims against Mark Angel recently, saying that Mark Angel cheated him. He didn't know that the channel was monetized. That essentially implying that he was exploited financially by Mark Angel. Now, he attended this. He was at. The Honest Bunch podcast. It's a great podcast. I'll put the descriptions in the link. Now, they uploaded the show on the 31st of July, and I know I'm a little bit late on the scene, but it kind of inspired me to do Legal Peppersoup, number one. And two, because I wanted to talk about it, because the things he was saying didn't make 100% sense, wasn't completely, didn't make enough sense. And I had to look into the background as to what happened. And my own opinion, and this is just my opinion, I don't think Mark Angel did anything wrong. And if anything else, this should be just a warning, a cautionary tale for you to, if you're a content creator, an artist, somebody who creates something, for you to understand the value of intellectual property. And this is a case that falls squarely into that. Now, I'm going to play parts of his interview on the Honest Bunch podcast, and I'll make some comments from there. You have to stick with me for a little bit because you need to kind of understand it for context. And I'll explain to you as we go along. So if we can just go to... well, that's not where I wanted to go. All right, there we go. All right, yeah. So if we can just go to... his interview with the Honest Bunch podcast, and we'll take it from there. So this is where he makes his claims. All right, so let's listen to what he has to say here.
Who is Denilson Igwe?
All right, I thank every one of you for having me on this show. My name is Denilson Igwe. I'm a comedian. Actually, I was the one that started Mackenzie Comedy. How it started was I was an orphan. And I started staying with them as then I was 12 years old. So I do talk.
I think we've had a slight glitch here. That's me not knowing actually what I'm supposed to be doing. But let me start again, and we'll come back to here. All right, let's go.
Yes. So I started making jokes from there in the house.
All right, sorry about that, but let's go again.
Who is Denilson?
Let's go again.
All right, I thank every one of you for having me on this show. My name is Denilson Igwe. I'm a comedian. Actually, I was the one that started Mark Angel Comedy.
All right, that's the first thing. Remember, he says, I started Mark Angel Comedy.
How it started was I was an orphan. So my sister took me to Mark's house, and I started staying with them. As then I was 12 years old. So I do talk, like I'm somebody that likes talking something down because I like Ucho Boago. When we're growing up,
Ucho Boago, yes.
Yeah, so I do listen to Ucho Boago. Yes. So I started making jokes from there in the house. And then Mark was the elder brother of the house. He's a security in Kilimanjaro, GRA, Port Harcourt. So one day, a friend of mine told me a story of how he took the sister's hanky. He wanted to take the sister's hanky, so he mistakenly took pant instead of the hanky. So when Mark came back, I told Mark about it. He said he's not interested.
All right, just bear that in mind. He talks about how he came up with this idea called Pankerchief, a skit called Pankerchief, and he told Mark, and Mark said he wasn't interested. But let's
So
continue.
then there's a church called Glorious Faith. That church is at Oibo. I do camera work for, I was learning camera. There's a man called Ifeanyi. He's the head of camera department in the church. So I was just looking at it as a small boy. So when he said the camera, he said, "Look at it, I'm coming." So I was just there doing the thing. So I said, "Okay, let me hire the camera. Let me collect the camera." So I stole the camera. Not like I stole it finished. Like I stole the camera.
You stole it half.
I stole the camera. I came home. We did that first comedy. And Mark saw that it was good. He said, "Okay."
The pant comedy.
Yes, the Pankerchief comedy. I did another one, Don't Shoot Me. Then the thing was not even going, like nothing like YouTube or Facebook. So I just keep doing it because I like it. Because when I do it, I share it to my friends and they just like it. I said, "Okay, I will be doing this thing." Then I was still selling for Mark's mom. I was selling rice and beans in her shop to her blessed memory because she's late now. Okay. So we started doing it. So one day there's one man called Honest TV. He said he liked this thing that I'm doing, that if I can come and be doing it in his bar.
All right, just listen to what he says here. He says there's a guy on X bar. He said he liked what he was doing. If he could come and do it at his bar, all right?
I was shy. I can't even crack joke. I don't even know how to crack joke. I said I can't crack. So I should just be coming there. So I just start coming to the bar. The man give me 10,000.
All right, he doesn't explain what he was doing at the bar, but he's saying the man was giving him 10,000 naira, which I presume he's giving him money for something. He hasn't explained what it was, but
when I came back, I told Mark said he's good though. So he stopped working at that Kilimanjaro as a den. He said, "Okay, don't worry, I'll be shooting for you." So
he says that Mark says that I'll be shooting. So he says Mark Angel quit his job as a security person at this place called Kilimanjaro, and he said that he will start shooting for Denilson. So implying that Denilson is the creative force, and Mark was going to start shooting for him.
He doesn't know much about. We don't even know much about camera, so we just keep doing it like that.
With the camera way thief.
Yes, no, not like I told you. Like I'm a cameraman in the church. Like when I go and collect it,
You collect, okay.
You borrow
Already
it
without
from
permission.
them.
Why I say stole is the pastor doesn't know that I collect the camera.
Okay.
So we just keep doing it like that. So one time he said he will create, and that time we said, "Okay, we'll name this thing Mechanic Pictures."
Okay, another important part. He says that they said that they'll name their collaboration or what they were doing. They would name it Mechanic Pictures.
When we started doing this small comedy, people like SAD, Maxi, I don't know if you know Maxi in Port Harcourt, SAD, started saying, "Okay, let's shoot musical video for them." You know those kind of low budget musical video that you can't even collect much. So we start doing it. I started doing what we call light and sound. Like I will set up these lights, yes. So we're doing it. Then on our own free time, I will do those comedy. So Max, okay, let us create a Facebook page. And I said, okay. So we are coming, then we'll say Mechanic Picture present 2 sheet, Don't Shoot Me, like the name of the comedy. That's how.
All right, so he says they had this collaboration. It's Mechanic Pictures presents. I'm just trying to
do it. Okay. So one time that Mark posted it on Facebook and the thing had a lot of views. He said, "Okay, fine. We'll keep doing this thing." And me, I don't even know what is monetization or whatever thing. So he created an account on YouTube 2013. I started doing this comedy 2011. He created an account 2013. So I don't even know when it was monetized or anything. So I just keep doing this stuff.
So Mark created the YouTube channel in 2013. Denilson says, I started comedy in 2011. Denilson says, I didn't know anything about monetization or anything.
Only 2014, he bought a car. I said, how did you even get money to buy a car? He said, somebody gave it to him. I said, okay, fine. And the thing is, I've not received 1,000 since that time. So Emanuela came into the scene.
All right, we'll speak about Emanuela now. I'm just going to go back and explain a couple of things. Now, Mark Angel comedy was essentially Denilson, Mark Angel himself, and some other big characters that used to do sketches. But the channel actually blew up proper, went international, and went viral when a small girl called Emanuela came in on the scene, and she's the person who made that channel explode. All right, we'll go into Emanuela in a bit, but let's look at what he was saying about the very first time they uploaded, and it was a skit called Handkerchief. All right, so this is that skit here, And let's look at the upload date. Now, this was uploaded 11 years ago. Let me just see where it is here. As you can see, it was uploaded on the 10th of August 2013. This is what he was saying. This is how he was explaining the collaboration was between him and Mark, right? So you can see here clearly it's Mechanic Pictures. Let me just go on a bit. And it goes on, presents a Mark Angel comedy production. Hold on. Why does it say a Mark Angel comedy production? Now, it says, let's go back to the beginning again, just to make sure, right? So it says Mechanic Pictures presents a Mark Angel comedy production.
This chick they here.
That's Denilson.
This chick they here. No,
It's very
just try
different.
to one.
All right, so I'll stop it there. So going back to the Mechanic Pictures. Now, what this would indicate is that Denilson probably brought the camera, because he said that he got the camera from the church, and probably came up with the skit, because he says he came up with that Pantkerchief skit. But it's clearly, it clearly says here that it's a Mark Angel comedy production. It clearly says a Mark Angel comedy production. So as far as the evidence tells, as I can see, Mark Angel produced it and Denilson brought in a camera. So hence the Mechanic Pictures presents the way. So it was a collaboration of sorts. Mechanic Pictures, which is Denilson, together with Mark Angel Comedy, and then they produced the skit. It's at this stage that, well, Denilson says he didn't really know that there was money in it or anything, but it's a little bit different from what he says, because remember, he says, we just said it was going to be Mechanic Pictures Presents. There's no mention of Mark Angel Comedy Production. So this shows that Mark Angel has been putting in the work. There's something else I want to show you. If you go to the end, remember, Denilson said that this guy, Onyx Bar, was calling him to come to the bar, and he was paying him 10,000 naira, but he never explained exactly what that money was for. If you check right at the end here, you see quite here, at the end of the Pantkerchief skit, you've got Mark Angel Comedy Bar, DVD now available. Clearly, this is a Mark Angel endeavor. It's a DVD. It's probably a comedy, but maybe they're doing stand-up or something. If anybody knows, let me know. Put a comment in the comment section there. But it's clearly something that Mark Angel has put together. And Denilson's there. Mark is there. There's Boy One. There's Big Mouth. And there's the very popular and famous Basket Mouth. And there's a number there to call. Now, this shows me that Mark at that point was already entrepreneurial and was looking for ways to produce and make this thing a success. So this is quite different from what Denilson says at that show. Now, another thing that I need to mention is that, remember Denilson, oh, well, I'm going to play what Denilson says. He says, or he implies essentially that he brought in Emanuela into the Mark Angel comedy team, right? And as I told you before, Emanuela made this channel blow up. You know, the first time I ever heard of this channel was probably around that time. It was my daughters, who were quite young at the time. They loved it. They used to watch it all the time. So I knew it. They used to call it Emanuela. It was always a Mark Angel comedy production, but everybody knows it as Emanuela. Now let's look at what he says and how he explains what happened in relation to Emanuela.
So I don't go to church. So one day, Emanuela started disturbing Mark's mom. I want to follow you to the house. We have a public holiday. Mark's mother said no the first Sunday. So the girl just keep disturbing. So she came to the house, and that girl can talk. The girl can talk for no reason. So one day I had a joke of Mess. Who Mess was the first comedy of Emanuela. I said, you must do this thing, and if you don't do it, I'll flog you, because nobody was at home. So Emanuela did it, and it came out. People started saying, who is this girl? Blah, blah, blah. So I did another one, but Mark did not post that one. Before he now did one they called Landlord. Is the landlord around? He did it. He said I should stop acting with Emanuela.
All right, so
that he wants to build a brand called Emanuela and the Uncle. That we should remove the Mechanic Picture. In fact, we should call it Mackenzie Comedy. I said, okay, he's the editor.
All right, so here he's saying that he did this first skit with Emanuela called Who Mess, and Who Mess is actually the first video that Emanuela did with the Mark Angel comedy team, and Denilson's implying that he made Emanuela do the skit. He's implying that he came up with the skit, And that after Mark Angel, or around the time Mark Angel did a skit called The Landlord, that he told Denilson that, you know what, you need to remove mechanic pictures. I want it's now to be Emanuela and the uncle. So he's implying that. But let's have a look at exactly what he's talking about. Let's look at the video Who Mess by which first introduced Emanuela to the world. Well, this is the video. Hold on a second. So this was uploaded on the 28th of August 2015. That's Emanuela. Well, time flies, doesn't it? All right, so this is, let's go right to the beginning of this skit here. You can see right at the beginning, this is right at the beginning, it says a Mark Angel comedy. There's no mechanic pictures here. And this is Emanuela's first time, according to Denilson, that she came onto this channel. So there's no mechanic pictures here. If you can see, if I just play a little bit here, you can see this is the beginning. It's there. It's just Mark Angel comedy mess. That's it. Denilson Igwe is in the he does act in it. This is him here. That's him here. All right, so but there's no mechanic pictures at this stage. If you go right to the end, again, I need to point out something to you. You can see Manuela here. This is what happens. All right, let's just play this part here.
Hello friends, thanks for watching that Mark Angel comedy. I hope you like it. Share it with your friends. I'll see you next Friday. Bye-bye.
All right, as you can see, there's no Denilson there. And that's the very first time she appears. According to Denilson during the show, he says it was after Mark Angel did the comedy skit with the landlord comedy skit with Emanuela that he told him to remove mechanic pictures. Let's look at that landlord skit here. As you can see it here, let me just get it there. This was uploaded on the 23rd, I think it is, says that, November 2015. And it's episode 36. I think the one with Emmanuel was 34, so it's probably 2-3 episodes later, about 2 episodes later, right? So it's I'm not around. This is the landlord skit that he's talking about, where he's not around. And if you watch right from the beginning, it just says Mark Angel comedy. There's nothing here that suggests mechanic pictures. All right, there's nothing there. All right, and remember, Denilson is saying it was around this time that Mark Angel told him that he shouldn't. He should remove mechanic pictures, but that isn't the case from how I see it. But anyway, if we go right to the end here again, you can see Mark Angel. This is because I think at the end of their skits he would leave contact numbers. You can see he's humble beginnings. Look at him, and hold on, let me just get it here. All right, so let's watch it from here.
Hello, thanks for watching that very funny Mark Angel comedy. See you next Friday. I hope you enjoyed it. And I hope you're coming for the Mark Angel comedy show. It's Laughter Convention 2016. If I don't see you there, I'll kill myself. See you next Friday. Please connect with us on WhatsApp right now with the number showing on your screen.
Decent.
You know, so it's clear that Mark Angel was the person behind this. I mean, it clears that he was doing production, he was putting it together, he was the mastermind, he was trying to put all these things together. What I understand from what I can see at the moment is that, yes, certainly Denilson probably inspired Mark to think, you know what, there's some sort of traction in comedy, let me go into comedy. But the way that Denilson has explained it isn't from anything that I see or can explain or think really happened. What's happened is Denilson has brought a camera. Mark Angel has thought, you know what, let's put this thing together. We can do skits. If you bring a camera, I'll do the rest. That's what the production companies or some, I presume, and they'll make their skits. It would have been at that initial stage that Denilson would have said, you know what, now I'm bringing the camera and it's Mechanic Pictures presents a Mark Angel comedy production. What happens to the content we create? That's when he should have sort of insisted on his IP, his intellectual property. Now, I need to stress that intellectual property is very important. And I'm just going to explain a few things about that and what Denilson could have done or should have done at that point. I don't blame him. I believe that he's frustrated because something that he didn't realize was going to be successful became very successful. And, you know, if he had played his cards better, he might be much better off than he is now financially. Before I proceed to go into, we're just going to delve into what intellectual property is for a minute. But let's look at what Denilson also says here.
I don't even, and the thing, I never had the vision that this thing will grow like this. So that's the truth. And me, I was not even looking for him to give me that kind of big money. I told you, he gave me $100. I used it for, like, I didn't change it. I was just holding it.
Yeah.
So if he had given me something, I wouldn't even bother myself.
But you say he gave you 10 million naira.
Yes.
After the contract
And
we signed.
are you signed something?
Yes.
So what was the nature of
You see, and that's where the problem lies. It's not that Denilson hasn't made any money. Denilson's made money, but he hasn't made the kind of money that he thinks he's entitled to have made because of the relationship he had with Mark Angel Comedy, and because he was there right at the very, very beginning. And Mark Angel, I mean, I think they've generated literally millions of dollars, and Denilson is not happy about that. He feels that, from the way he explains it, I created Mark Angel Comedy. But again, I'm just going to play you again his admission here.
I don't even, and the thing, I never had the vision that this thing will grow like this. So that's the truth. And me, I was not even looking for him to give me that kind of big money. I told you, he gave me $100.
He didn't expect it. You know, the reason why Denilson, this is, again, my opinion, the reason why he's so bitter or frustrated and is now claiming that he was cheated and, you know, is because of how successful Mark Angel Comedy became. And it was Mark's vision, from what I see, because Mark is the one that brought Emmanuel into it. I know that Denilson is in the skits, but you need to ask yourself, how much does Mark Angel owe Denilson if you don't outline your arrangements, or if you don't outline your relationships or the terms of what your agreements are? Let's look into what this whole matter, and I'll say let's look into legal implications of this. Well, not legal implications, what the terms are, let me put it that way. Well, it's legal Peppersoup, so it would be what it is. So now listen, the most important term to look for in a music or content creation agreement. Remember, people are creating content. If you're collaborating with somebody, it's content, it's IP, intellectual property. But anyway, the most important term to look for in a music or content creation agreement is intellectual property. I know, I mean, I should have done the drum roll there. But anyway, so what is intellectual property? Now, intellectual property is something that you create using your mind, you know, for example, a story, an invention, an artistic work, or a symbol. Now, people don't really respect intellectual property because it's free. Kind of, it comes from your mind. It's something that you have imagined. There's no startup cost for it. It's your creativity. So sometimes people come up with a story, an idea, a song, a lyric. These things are valuable. That's why it's called intellectual property. It is property of the mind. It's intellect. So please do not undervalue yourself by thinking that, oh, just because I thought of it, there's not much value to it. Anything you create, there's value, or there could be immense value in it. All right, so why is it important? Ownership of IP, intellectual property, is closely tied to royalties. I'm sure I had a sound effect for royalties. There we go. Royalties, money is closely tied to money and potential long-term revenue. If you own the masters in music or the publishing in music, you have the rights to the content. You can license it for future use, example in movies, adverts, remixes, leading to ongoing income. Without ownership, you could miss out on significant revenue opportunities. So this is an essential point to negotiate. Essentially, you need to look into, if you're into an agreement, first of all, the very first thing you need to look into is what's happening to this stuff that we're going to create. What is going to happen to it? You know, where's the all right. So that's the first thing that you really, really need to look into. And that's why it's so important, because it is all about the money. Okay, who owns the rights? Now, the primary question to ask and negotiate is who will own the content after it's created. If you're working with a label or production company or a brand, they may try to claim ownership. And this is often done through a work for hire clause where the company becomes the legal owner of the content. So in any agreement you look to see what's happening to the IP, the intellectual property, who owns it, all right? Now, if you're employed by somebody, you will usually not own the intellectual property for something you created as part of your work while you were employed by someone else. So if you're in a job and you're working for somebody else and part of your job description is to create content, that content will normally, in most cases, the usual case, belong to your employer. However, if you're self-employed, it's quite different. You usually own the intellectual property even if the work was commissioned by someone else, unless your contract gives them the right. So please look out for that work for hire clause. Look to see what's happening, if you're self-employed. And in this situation, going back to Denilson at that stage was self-employed. He was Mechanic Pictures. He was bringing the camera. So at that point, he could argue this is a joint venture. This property, this Pankerchief comedy skit we're going to do, how do we share the revenue that's going to come from it? He says he didn't have the foresight, but there you go. But it's at that stage. But critically looking at it, though, when I look at what actually happened, Denilson says he was stealing the camera. So it's clearly he didn't have any money. And so to me, it seems like Mark Angel produced it and Denilson brought his camera. And therefore, if there was an agreement at the time, Mark could have said, you know what, I'll pay you X amount just for this, but I'm going to own the IP. I don't know, but that's what I'm just trying to explain it in the way that it would have occurred between Denilson and Mark Angel at the time. Now, if you do see a work for hire clause in your agreement, push to remove or modify the clause. You can negotiate for a full or part or partial ownership of the work. So you can say, look, let's share it 50-50, or let me have a percentage of it. But, can you change that a bit? I need some of that. Because remember, it's all about the... So you'd need to see if you could negotiate that, right? But if it's not possible to remove the clause, ask for a license agreement and say, you know what, you can have it and use it for example, let me just read this instead, which allows the client to use the work under specific conditions while you retain ownership. So, for example, you could say, use it for the next 5 years. You could do anything you want with it, but I will still own it. So I've licensed it to you for 5 years, but I will still own it. After 5 years, or after you've done 2 years or 1 year or 6 months or whatever conditions you put to it, after that, the ultimate ownership lies with me. And try and negotiate that. But if you can't, and if it doesn't work, just ask for a higher fee. Because if removing the work for hire clause is not an option, negotiate higher compensation to reflect the fact that you are giving up ownership. You should be paid more upfront since you won't receive royalties for future income. So, negotiate. Say, look, well, if you're not going to give me the potential royalties for this, I'm not going to get any ownership. Then, you've got to up my fees, because again, it's all about the... Okay, that's the case in relation to intellectual property and what my thoughts have been of it so far. If you've got any thoughts or questions on this, I'm just trying to try and summarize this thing as quickly as I can, because I don't want to bore you all to death. But I thank you very much indeed for sticking with me to this point. My name is Obi. This is Legal Peppersoup. We're going to be discussing intellectual property and some other cases in more detail once I get the hang of this setup. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please like, subscribe, share, tell a friend to tell a friend about it. And if you have any questions, I said, turn on your notifications. If you have any questions about this, if there's nothing that you're not too clear about, please just send us a message. I've enjoyed it and the time has flown by. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you watching this wherever you are. And thank you.